Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Friday, May 31st, 2024. And the big breaking headline this evening is that the mother of Michelle Obama has passed away at age 86. And I want to talk about all the things that are strange about her passing on this date. For one, it's exactly 44 weeks into her age. And of course, her daughter was married to number 44, elected 44 years after the Civil Rights Act, when the most famous civil rights leader of all time in U.S. history, MLK, died on April 4th, 4-4. And it goes with Malcolm X being killed on 44 date numerology and all those great running backs at Syracuse who were darker complected, who wear the number 44, and some of them didn't live to be that long, and others got to be a little bit older, like Jim Brown, whose name equals 104 and who just dropped dead right before the 104th NFL season. Last year when Mahomes was at the White House, it was 104 days for his birthday, and then he went on to win that 104th season. We're going to talk about this news coming the same day the Kansas City Chiefs at the White House with Joe Biden. But again, the point I'm trying to get people to understand is it's not an accident that in Washington, D.C., it's nicknamed the Masonic City, in the same way it's not an accident that on the Masonic Temple in D.C., the phrase is etched, all is number. And Masonry is biblical, and the fourth book of the Bible is titled Numbers. Remember, Obama put out that book, A Promised Land, playing on the prophecy of Abraham on November 17th, a few years back, the day leaving 44 days left in the year. And in Gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words, Abraham equals 44. We're going to talk about this and more and bring it all together. If you guys are new here, before Biden became number 46, we explained long in advance why he was going to win the 59th U.S. presidential election, and he was going to be elected number 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, the same Pope who Benedict stepped down for on the 59th day of the year. It's a lot of history to explain, but 59 was this monumental number to Biden and Kamala Harris taking office. And 59 has a lot to do with Obama as well, which we'll get to, and Black history at that. Motown Records in 59. Black History Month is February, the day of the month that ends on the 59th day of the year. But I had this prediction for tomorrow, June 1st, 2024, right as Biden took office. And it looks like I might end up being wrong about that since there's this debate coming up in June 27th. But if you go back to what I said, I thought that it was very possible Kamala Harris could be replacing Joe Biden at about this exact moment, and maybe just a short term, and maybe we'd see Michelle Obama come into the picture. These were all things we were talking about back at the start of 2021, and the date that we set the line for was somewhere right around June 1st, 2024. Today happens to be 59 days before Marion Robinson's upcoming birthday, which is July 29th. And if you want to look it up, July 29th is International Tiger Day. We've been talking about this with racism for a while because, you know, the children's thing, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick a tiger by his toe. If you look into that nursery rhyme, once upon a time, it wasn't the word tiger. It was the N word. It was eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick a N by its toe. And again, we're going to really bring this together, but her birthday is International Tiger Day. Dak Prescott also has that same birthday. Dak Prescott in Gematria literally equals the N word. But if you guys have not read my book, Letters and Numbers, my first book, I talk about this racial code and how important 59 is in Black history. And Kamala Harris, the first Black woman in the Oval Office, is 59 years old right now. Obama's Secret Service name, Renegade. And again, a renegade's like somebody who sells something out, but his Secret Service name is Renegade, which equals 59. So, again, here we are exactly 44 weeks into her age. She's dead. Michelle was married to number 44. It's 59 days before her birthday. I might not have had the exact timing right for this thing that we see playing out, but I think this is a sign that the thing playing out is going to be right. So let's talk more about Marion Robinson's passing. She's born Marion Shields, which we'll get to. And then let's talk about the perfect ritual with the Chiefs at the White House after winning Super Bowl 58. Just like every year, we've documented the pro sports teams at the White House. It's always a perfect ritual. It never fails. Last year, it foretold that Mahomes was the guy for the 104th season. So anyway, Marion Robinson's dead at 86. We'll come back to her passing at 86. Her birthday, July 29th, 1937. Today marks exactly 44 weeks into her age. Exactly 44 weeks. The 308 days, of course, stands out as well. DC on the 38th parallel north. 38, a very special number. It's a number connected to death, but so much more. Energy, Kabbalah, it's a big one, 38. It's not an accident this nation's capital is on the 38th parallel. But yes, the 44 weeks is the easy one for people to understand. If you're new here, Gematria is very simple. It's the alphabetic order. ABC is 1, 2, 3, up to Z. The 26R is 26. It's the alphabetic order forwards and backwards. Obama equates to 32. We're going to get to how today is exactly 32 weeks after Kamala's birthday. She has major parallels to Obama. Obama won the 56th election. She took the White House at age 56. There's a reason for all of this. But again, they were both one-term senators that then jumped into the Oval Office and both connected to Joe Biden, right? Who said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. That was back in 2020. Obama is 103 in reverse. Notice it was 10 months and 3 days into her age. There's been a lot of rituals with Obama in 103. You might recall Virginia McLaurin, who danced with him, died at age 103. As we'll get to, there's also a relationship with the numbers 103 and 86 through the gematria of Jesuits. Again, that's who runs this nation and sets up these rituals. 103 and 86. She's gone at age 86. Jesuits is 103 forwards, 86 in reverse, whereas Obama's 32 forwards, 103 in reverse, just like you see on the screen. Okay, you remember how Obama put out that movie, Leave the World Behind? And when people said, what a weird movie for a U.S. president to have his name attached to, about the destruction of America. And then you think about a Secret Service named Renegade. And again, a renegade would like secretly sabotage their nation. That would be the renegade's job. And remember, Obama's from the land of Lincoln, and the Secret Service was created on the day Lincoln was shot. These things aren't an accident. Lincoln, who blamed the American Civil War on the Jesuits. But notice, it's the 192nd day since that movie officially released in theaters on the JFK assassination anniversary. Remember, in Gematria, Leave the World Behind equals 192, and that's important because at the end of the film, they're in a billionaire's bunker, and it says Commodus, and Commodus was the leader of Rome when Rome began to fall. So now here we are again. Michelle Obama's mother is dead on the 192nd day since the theatrical release of the film, again on the JFK assassination anniversary, which was in 63. And we're going to get to how I started out here. The count of her days from her death, she died, you could say, on her 308th day of being 86 years old. Exactly 44 weeks into being 86 years old. That's a way to say it. Another fair way to say it is not to count the span and say she's died 307 days after her last birthday, which would be 43 weeks and 6 days if you count the days after. And we're going to get to why both of those matter, but starting with 307, remember, 307 is the 63rd prime number. JFK assassinated in 63. He was number 35, the first Catholic. Catholic equals 35 forwards, 46 in reverse, assassinated at age 46. But he was the 44th term U.S. president because some presidents have more than one term. So 44, this fateful number, the first U.S. president to die in office died on April 4th. The word kill equals 44. The word execution is 44. We talk about this a lot. And now it's Michelle Obama's mother. But yes, Commodus, who was made famous in the Gladiator film where Russell Crowe gets him. Again, that's Commodus. He marks the fall of Rome. That's the name shown at the end of the Obama film. Okay. If you're new here, gematria, very simple. There are 4 base ciphers of the English language, alphabetic order with numerology. When I first began, I only talked about 2 ciphers, and the one I predominantly talked about was the alphabetic order with numerology, which is exactly what you're looking at the screen. Notice how Marion Robinson, President Biden, President Trump, they all have that 72. And actually, hold on, did I make a mistake in real time? I was getting tongue twisted with her name. Her name might actually be Mariam. I might have made a mistake with the Mariam thing because that would change the value. Oh, it is Marion with an N. Okay, I got it right. Marion Robinson, 72. Just like President Biden, just like President Trump. Remember, when Biden became a senator in 1972, his wife and daughter died in a car crash. And then when he was 72 years old, his son, Beau Biden, died at age 46, years before he became number 46, back when Obama was still president. The name Joe Biden equates to 152. This woman's dead on the 152nd day of the year. Again, Joe Biden's the link to Obama and also the link to Kamala Harris, whose full name is Kamala Devi Harris, which also has the 152. And something we've been talking about for why we expect Kamala to replace Biden while he's in office. And there's a chance here that Joe Biden gets reelected and he'd be 86 years old at the end of his second term if he was. Can you imagine Joe Biden at 86 the way things are going now with his character on TV? But God, what do you imagine if we had to watch this many more years of this and then Kamala ends up? I don't want to think about that, but that'd be something else. Anyhow, the point is, Joe Biden, 152nd day of the year. Typically in a non-leap year, June 1st is the 152nd day of the year. Tomorrow, June 1st, the day that we thought Joe Biden might leave, and it's still possible, I suppose. There's 24 hours left. It's just that they set that debate for June 27th, and I think they're going to have that debate. I could be wrong about that. We'll see. If he goes tomorrow, we'll be like, oh, well, that was the initial thought. Anyhow, June 1st is 1,229 days after Joe Biden took office. That's the 201st prime number. And if you're new here, Inauguration Day is the 201st day of the nation's age, and it's written 20/1. And D.C. is not the original capital, just like January 20th is not the original Inauguration Day. It used to be Philadelphia. It used to be March 4th. It moved to D.C., which is where the Jesuits set up camp. And the Jesuits, their entire history goes back to the number 201. It's why we're in the time of the first Jesuit Pope, who's the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican. But when Joe Biden's wife and daughter died, they died on Limestone Road, which equals 201. When his son died, Beau Biden, yesterday was the anniversary of his death. That was 201 days before the Pope's birthday. Today, the day after, is 200 days before the Pope's birthday, or if you count the span of days from today to the Pope's birthday, December 17th, that's a span of 201 days. Today is 201 days also after the Superior General's birthday. We were talking about the ritual with Trump yesterday, who buried his ex-wife on the 201st day of the year. After she died, synced with the Jesuit calendar year, exactly 60 weeks into it, the same day he announced he'd be running for the 60th U.S. presidential election. Anyhow, Joe Biden, Kamala Devi Harris, 152, 152nd day of the year. In a sense, the first black woman in the Oval Office, you could argue, is Michelle Obama, but the first one who's actually in federal office is Kamala Harris. And again, we're getting to the bigger piece with her. But yes, this same special number, 72. And we got the first Jesuit Pope on March 13th, 2013, the 72nd day of the year. I forgot to mention Jesuit order equates to 72. Special number, 72 names of God in Kabbalah, 72 demons in the Goetia. And again, in the 4 base ciphers, her name also equals 216. Obama's birthday is the day leaving 216 days left in the year. Or hold on. His birthday is August 4th. That is the 216th day of the year. Excuse me. Obama's birthday is the 216th day of the year, August 4th. Just like Lori Lightfoot, who became the 56th mayor of Chicago, like Obama won the 56th election, like Kamala took office at age 56. Lori Lightfoot also has the 8-4 birthday. And 84 is a number of numbers as well. But here, let's just stick on what we're talking about with today's latest news. From Obama's last birthday to this woman's death is exactly 43 weeks after his birthday. And remember, Obama was number 44, but he was the 43rd person to be U.S. president. Again, that's because Grover Cleveland had a split term. So the count's been messed up ever since. It's like Biden's number 46, but he's the 45th person to be president. Oh, I forgot to mention, too. I was saying a big part of the reason that we've thought that Kamala is going to replace Joe Biden is because, go back and look this up. It's undeniable. Gerald Ford at the Herbert Hoover Library back in the 1980s answered a little girl's question about how we'll get the first female president. And he said there'll be an old man who dies in office and the vice president will be a younger woman who becomes the first president. The thing that's really wild about that is, again, he said that in the Herbert Hoover Library. And the same day that Herbert Hoover died in history, the exact same day is the same day that Kamala Harris was born. October 20th, 1964, the year of the Civil Rights Act. And of course, Kamala is to turn 60 later this year in the time of this 60th U.S. presidential election, just like Michelle Obama is age 60 right now. She'll turn 61 next year. So if you guys have read my first book, Letters and Numbers, there's a gematria code outside of the base ciphers that I don't bring up very often, but I wrote about this in my first book because this system is that there's these two ciphers, Chaldean and Septenary, that are related. And there's so many things in these ciphers that have an amazing pairing throughout history. Just like how the first African-American president, that term used in Western or in U.S. culture, Obama becomes the 43rd person to be president, but number 44. African-American, 43 in Chaldean, 44 in Septenary. And if you're new here, I always talk about Washington, D.C. and 47. It's the Masonic city. The Masons study the 47th problem of Euclid. Pretty much everything about D.C.'s history is 47. In the news, if you're watching the news, all the networks are doing the same little bio about how Michelle's mother raised her on Euclid Avenue. Okay? Remember, Obama took office at age 47 with Joe Biden, who was the 47th vice president. Joe Biden was a senator for 47 years before he became president. Again, in Gematria, in our base ciphers, president, White House, government authority, Republican, Democrat, they all equal 47. Even the letters DC with the alphabetic order in reverse are 47. I noticed in that same cipher system, Kamala Harris is 40. Kamala Devi Harris, her full name is 42 and 56. Remember when she had to defend her blackness on the 42nd day of the year, February 11th, which was the Vatican's birthday, as we covered back then, and then she takes office at 56 with the parallels to Obama. Euclid Avenue has that gematria of 202, and DC's the 202 area code. Today's 201 days after the Superior General's birthday, or the 202nd day of his age. Again, the Masonic compass, the Scottish Rite out of France, sets the compass at 47 degrees. France has that 47 connection as well. The picture that Fox put out of her was from years ago, April 13th, 2009. If you give a mouse a cookie, that is the 103rd day of the year. The 103rd day of the year, like Obama is 103. Again, she's dead 10 months and 3 days into her age. They have to take a picture from the 103rd day of the year. And yeah, again, her birthday, July 29th, her date of death, May 31st. She has passed 59 days before her birthday. Big one. Obama's Secret Service name, Renegade 59, like slave, like Negro, like Rasta, like blues. Again, like how Biden and Kamala won the 59th election. What's crazy, too, is Pope Francis equals 59, Catholic equals 46. Again, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday was Biden. First President's Day just happened to fall on the 46th day of the year, 15/2, when Biden took office, all part of the perfectly planned script. Again, the calendar comes from the Catholic Church, named after the Pope. But John F. Kennedy and Pope Francis both equal 59. And again, JFK was killed at age 46. The definition of renegade: a person who deserts and betrays an organization, country, or set of principles. I mean, the fact that the Secret Service would give him this name. And again, Obama from the land of Lincoln. Lincoln signed the Secret Service into being the day of his assassination. Just think about that. And D.C. being the Masonic city named after a secret society. The SS after the World War. The second one, they brought in the SS. Okay. Today is 142 days before Kamala's upcoming birthday. President Obama equals 142. When he was in office, there were plenty of rituals with 142 in Obama. Again, May 31st to October 20th. Kamala could go down as the 47th president, like Obama took office at age 47. This woman on Euclid Avenue, the 47th problem of Euclid. You're following everything I'm saying, right? The long list of 47s. Me constantly whipping out this license plate. What is 47? Again, government 47, authority 47, just so many important words. News 47, Vatican 47. This year, the Super Bowl for the first time on the Vatican's birthday, and 47 points scored in the game, and the over-under set at 47.5. And American football is credited to a Freemason, and the first Super Bowl season was the 47th season of the NFL. There might even be something with how the finals are now set as of yesterday. The first time they ever used the term NBA Finals was in 86. She's dead at 86. Obama's a big basketball fan. Joe Biden's Secret Service name is Celtic. Remember, Len Dawson died in the mega ritual right after the 86 finals. R.I.P. We all know what they just did to Bill Walton and now Drew Gordon. It's just crazy that people don't catch on. But yes, 59. I mean, this is why we thought Kamala could very well take office at age 59 in this 59th election in light of the history of this number. And now it's Michelle's mother, a day before the day that we thought it might happen. And if you go back and listen to what I was saying, May 31st could potentially work that year as well, or June 1st, because June 1st is typically the 152nd day, and a leap year, May 31st is the 152nd day. So, I mean, this is exactly the time frame we were looking at. And again, it'd be something if it was Joe tomorrow. You just never know. But I'm thinking they're going to have that debate. So I'm thinking whenever the planned transition is, this is a sign it's still to come. So we will see. We will see. And again, the point to take away is the exact numbers that we made the point about are here showing themselves in spades again. The same numbers I've been talking about for a decade, the same numbers I wrote 2 books about. From her last birthday, again, to May 31st, it's 307 days later, the 63rd prime. Who remembers when Tom Brady in his 307th NFL game became 6-3 in Super Bowls in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which equals 307. That was in Super Bowl 53. Bill Belichick won his 6th championship at age 66 in the same stadium. Who was his former assistant coach, Nick Saban, won his 6th championship at age 66. Wonder what they're trying to pay tribute to there. Not to mention the word beast equals 47. But yeah, in that same cipher where Obama has those nifty connections, her full name, her maiden name, Michelle Obama's mother's maiden name was Shields. Marion Lois Shields, 63. If you've never heard me talk about the Andy Griffith Show and the episode put out on Christmas Day, foreshadowing the death of JFK from 411 Elm Street, look into that. It's in the historical archive. The Andy Griffith Show that foreshadowed the death of Kennedy and the address 411 Elm Street. That episode came out 144 days after Obama's birthday. It came out Christmas Day, 1961. Obama born in 61. Michelle going to turn 61 years old. JFK took office in 1961, assassinated in 63. But that episode, 144 days after Obama's first birthday. Again, JFK ended up getting killed 144 days from meeting with the Pope. RFK died at 1:44 in the morning. JFK lost his child August 9th, right before his assassination, the day leaving 144 days left in the air. Last year, Biden assassination scare story on August 9th. And there was an assassination down in South America last year on August 9th. The Shinzo Abe assassination was 144. Remember, Jesuit order equals 144. President Biden also equals 144. The upcoming election's 144 days after Trump's birthday, who's Jesuit educated. Georgetown simulated that Biden would win in 2020 on June 12th, 144 days before the election. RFK Jr. got in the race officially, filing his paperwork April 5th, 2023, 144 days after the Superior General's birthday. So, again, I'm just making the point that 307 days after her birthday, 63rd prime, JFK assassinated in 63. Again, the Obama movie Leave the World Behind came out in theaters on the anniversary of the JFK assassination, November 22nd. And from that day, as we talked about, to her death is 192 days. You know what I mean? Seems all really coordinated and pointing back to something very specific in history. You know, tragic events that led to the decline of nations. If you look at the assassination of JFK, wouldn't you say the U.S. has been on a pretty downward spiral since then? Just crazy wars it didn't need to be in, quality of life. Again, when JFK was assassinated, a lot of households had one working parent who wasn't in debt, who could pay for their children's tuition and multiple children's tuition. So, I mean, to me, that just is a simple answer. Has quality of life gone down? And now two parents are working and they can't achieve anywhere near that. I'd say that's a drastic decline in quality of life. Rome is falling. It's been falling. People need to wake up because it get a lot worse. And just since we did break out the septenary cipher, notice Leave the World Behind is also 76. And remember, the movie has 76s all over it. And of course, Barack Obama equals 76. Slave, Negro, Blues, Rasta all equal 76. You run it the other way, they all equal 59, like how they got rid of OJ 59 days after the Super Bowl before the year was Super Bowl 59, and he died at 76. In Ephesians 6, 5 through 9 is slaves obey your masters, and master equals 76. And they announced OJ's death as the masters were teeing off, showing the last time he was seen on TV was the day of the Super Bowl in a Titleist hat, which is a golf company. And again, Acts 7:6 in the Bible about slavery and the 400-year prophecy. That's the 44th book of the Bible, Acts. Like Obama number 44, whose name equals 76. Like how the federal government recognized Black History Month for the first time in 1976. Okay. All right, let's transition to the Chiefs being at the White House today. Again, they're visiting Joe Biden on the 152nd day of the year. You run it the other way, Joe Biden equals 64. The Chiefs just won the Super Bowl in their 64th season. Kansas City Chiefs is 64. Remember, Norma Hunt, the owner, died on June 4th before the season, the day we write 6-4. Kind of like how Maui equals 64, and Biden spoke in Hawaii 13 days after the fires on the state of Hawaii's 64th birthday. And don't forget, Hawaii was made a state 201 months after Joe Biden was born. Joe Biden from Scranton, Pennsylvania, where the home of The Office ran 201 episodes. It reminds of, Martin Luther penning the 95 Theses and the Jesuits being created 201 months later and MLK being killed on the 95th day of the year, like Martin Luther and the 95 Theses, and then the nation's first major gun control legislation 201 days later. That was almost back when Joe Biden was a senator, even though it was so long ago. He became senator-elect in 72, so this marks the 52nd anniversary of him becoming senator-elect. President, White House, government authority, Kabbalah, the Cabal, Gematria, they all have the 52 connection. Another special number. 52 weeks in the year named after the Pope. Another 52 word. Earth 52. 52 cards in the deck. Anyhow, not only is it the 152nd day of the year, it's 110 days after the Super Bowl. And Super Bowl's on the 42nd day of the year. Missouri equals 42. The Chiefs became 4-2 in Super Bowls, getting their 24th playoff win to start 2024 as Mahomes picked up his 89th win, the 24th prime. Anyway, it's 110 days later. Obviously, if the Super Bowl is the 42nd day of the year, the Vatican's birthday, it's obviously 110 days later for a 152. Now, the reason I put Minnesota up here, I'm going to get into. But last year, we hit a nice future with the Chiefs. And we thought it was either them or Baltimore to represent the Super Bowl before the season began. That's the information I put out for everyone, essentially. It'll be Chiefs or Baltimore to win the Super Bowl That'll likely be the AFC Championship. We were dead on about that. By the time the playoffs came around, it was obvious it was going to be the Chiefs, and Andy Reid was going to stay on 58 losses with the team. And if they beat Baltimore in the conference championship, as they did, they would become the Baltimore would fall to 5-8 versus the Chiefs, which they did. Baltimore equals 58. The bridge came down 58 days later. That's a whole nother story. Also synced with Biden and Nancy Pelosi and old Catholic artifacts in Oval Office. Because I'm going to remind you guys in just a second how the NFL was established on the birthday of the Constitution and not by accident. It's the same day that Patrick Mahomes' birthday is. But the reason I have Minnesota and 110 up here is twofold. First, something that we saw that we thought would be a real good sign for the Chiefs is if they began the year 4-1, becoming 4-1 against Minnesota. Go back and look at what they did last year. They did become 4-1 against Minnesota. Why did we think that would matter? Well, first of all, Super Bowl equals 41. Baltimore the other way equals 41. Mahomes got his 41st road win, beating Baltimore to advance to the Super Bowl. Remember, Super Bowl equals 41, and Mahomes started winning all those Super Bowls 1 week after Kobe died at age 41 on the 41st day of the Pope's age, traveling from Catholic Mass. And Mahomes won that game with his 41st pass on a completion to number 26 for his 26th completion on his 41st pass. When Kobe died at 41 on the 26th of the month, and Kobe Bryant equals 41, and Bryant equals 26. And God and game is 26, and Adam is 26, and man's made in the 26th verse, and athlete is 26. Anyway, these numbers have been huge, but Super Bowl is 41. Last year, we also said Mahomes will throw 2 touchdown passes to have 41 for his postseason career. That's exactly what he did with the game winner. Again, the Chiefs went to overtime 19-19. McCole Hardman caught the game winner for his 19th touchdown pass, and Mahomes' 41st postseason touchdown. And Joe Montana wore 19 with the Chiefs. But anyway, the Minnesota thing. The other reason it mattered so much that they could become 4-1 versus Minnesota is because we said, doesn't this make sense? They won their first Super Bowl over Minnesota in Super Bowl IV. This is the Chiefs. The Chiefs won their first Super Bowl in Super Bowl IV, and then they didn't win another for 50 years. And Chiefs equals 50, like San Francisco, who they beat. Joe Montana equals 54. They won Super Bowl 54. In the Joe Montana Bowl, and Super Bowl 58 was the 54th Super Bowl of the modern era, which was also the Joe Montana Bowl. But anyway, they won Super Bowl IV over Minnesota, and I said, think about it. They can win their 4th Super Bowl as a franchise in the last season, which they did. They became 4-2, and it would be Mahomes' 4th Super Bowl appearance. So not only did that happen, but there was all these other mega rituals in the numbers, and we knew early on that the Chiefs had the best narrative and still liked them to face Baltimore. And it was just another season of taking advantage of the whole rig show. So with Minnesota being that team and also having the 110 connection, I started to think about how the old Washington, D.C. baseball team was the Washington Senators. Again, Biden was a senator for a really long time. The Senators hadn't been in the World Series since 1933 when the new Washington team, the Nationals, won it, synced up with Trump. It was the 115th World Series. Trump took office with the 115th Congress. Nationals equals 138, like Donald Trump, like federal. The Nationals won that World Series 138 days after Trump's birthday. Anyway, the Minnesota Senators thing, I decided to look into that more carefully, this transition from Minnesota Senators, or excuse me, am I misspeaking? I might be misspeaking. The old Washington, D.C. team was the Washington Senators, and that team became the Minnesota Twins, okay? The old Washington Senators team became the Minnesota Twins. And so I had to go back and look because I wasn't sure until today. I had to go back and look at when that transition was. And then I said, would you look at that? Would you look at that? Hold on. There's other things that are interesting here that we're going to come back to. But where did I put this? Did I forget to put the screenshot in here? Wait a minute. Oh, I made it so small. God, it's not a good screenshot. It's tiny. Okay, this is a disappointing screenshot. That's how I didn't even see it as I scrolled right past it. Okay. This is small, but if you go here, let's just do it this way. Let's go to Baseball Reference. This will be better. Let's type in Minnesota Twins. And keep in mind, like in hockey, you have Dallas in the conference finals, and Dallas is in the conference finals in the NBA. Again, the NHL and NBA both have Dallas in the conference finals. It was the first ever year that both playoffs began for the NBA and NHL on the same day. The Dallas team in the NHL, the Stars, they used to be the Minnesota North Stars. And then in the NBA, you had Dallas advancing over Minnesota. So there's something deeper going on here. Remember, the Mavericks got taken over by the casino owner, Mariam Adelson, by the numbers on her 51st day of the age when the Mavs were established on 5-1 and Dallas Mavericks is 51. It was all synced up with the war, and Sheldon Adelson was a huge donator to, Zio land. But here, Minnesota Twins. Let's go back through history. You see what year it was that they left Washington, you guys? 1960, right? 1960. The year that JFK was elected. And then he took office in 61, the year Obama was born, and the year that they became the Minnesota Twins in the very Catholic Twin Cities, St. Paul being the other one with Minneapolis. Remember, Minneapolis is 62. Yesterday, Dallas picked up their 62nd win of the season, eliminating them. And then as soon as they eliminated them, the news story broke that 6 people were shot, including 2 officers in Minneapolis. They had to get the 6-2 in the headline. But I'm telling you, this stuff is all not an accident. It's because it's all been synced up all along. And with the point about it all being synced up all along, hold on. What did I do here? Did I get things out of order? By the way, Harrison Butker, if you missed my whole post on his supposed controversy because a person just can't speak their mind and people can't have a hissy fit if it's different from them. It's the America they want to cultivate. Notice today is, again, he gave this graduation speech to the Catholic school that people said, oh, that is just so wrong. That is so dated. It's like, I think he's talking about the way people were in happier times. Maybe we shouldn't just tarnish these ideas. I mean, back when people valued having a family. Oh my God, the idea that somebody could like having a family more than a career. I mean, insanity. Isn't that exactly what you'd tell the slave workforce? We don't want you to have families. We want you to be slaves and tax cattle. God forbid those kind of values. Anyway, Harrison Butker, the big Catholic with the Catholic. I mean, and come on, you guys. Harrison Butker, Jake Butt, tight ends. Anyway, it's the 193 days after Biden's birthday, and Roman Catholic Church is 193 and 104. And again, it was the 104th NFL season, and Taylor Allison Swift's 104, and they synced up the whole damn year with her. But okay. I forgot to put a couple screenshots in here. If you want to look up the day of the Constitution's birthday, here. NFL establishment date. I want you to see when the NFL was born. September 17th, 1920, okay? U.S. Constitution, September 17th. It's got the same date, the U.S. Constitution. September 17th is designated as Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, okay? That's also Patrick Mahomes' birthday, the face of the NFL right now. But it's September 17th, 1787, okay? That's the Constitution's birthday in Philadelphia. September 17th, 1787. The NFL's birthday, September 17th, 1920. How many years later is that? If you do the math, that's 133 years later, okay? 133. In Gematria, football equals 133, so does government, so does White House. Do you remember the year that the Eagles beat the Patriots and the year that it was all about the flag and national anthem protests? Both the Patriots and Eagles made it to the Super Bowl in Minnesota, and both teams had records in the regular season of 13-3. That was back when there was still a 16-game schedule. They've made it a 17. Remember, they made it a 17-game schedule the year that Brady won his 7th ring. 17's the 7th prime. Not an accident. But anyway, 133 connects football and government. It also connects White House. Look at the gematria of President Minnesota, the comparison in 3 of the 4 base ciphers. There's only one cipher where they're different. President in Minnesota, 110, 133, 52, right? Today, 110 days after the Super Bowl, where the early indicator in the year that the Chiefs were going to win their 4th was when they picked up their 4th win over Minnesota. Just reading the scripts, understanding how to read the scripts, because we got the cabal's code. We got their number. We figured out their number system. And that's why they've had to shift things around a little bit. But it's still good enough that we can still win a plenty. And again, it's just like Boston Celtics. It's going to be the 78th game of the playoffs In the 78th NBA season, the day of the Celtics' 78th birthday, the only team in the league, Boston Celtics, with a full name that equals 78, the team that we said before the year began, most likely to be in the big game. Here they are. Learn the code. But anyway, Travis Kelce, one of the major face of the Chiefs. Almost all the headlines today are actually about Harrison Butker and Travis Kelce. That's why I was like, that's weird. They almost left out Mahomes' name. Harrison Butker with his controversy and Travis Kelce with his tight end and Taylor Swift has overshadowed Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, it's 239 days after Travis Kelce's birthday, which is the 52nd prime number. Remember, that's how we called Super Bowl 52 dead on September 23rd, 23/9. The flag sewn in Philadelphia at 239 Arch Street. The Patriots with the flag on the helmet. Donald Trump with the same birthday as the flag, who took office while the flag was 239 years old, condemned Kaepernick and all the protesters when the flag protest had began on the 239th day of the year. That's when we said, okay, this is a sign of what the Super Bowl is for Super Bowl 52. Trump, who weighs 239 pounds per recent headlines, look it up. I'm not making this shit up. They put out a story that Trump weighed 239 pounds when he first took office. Following all that, told us that this is the ritual for Super Bowl 52. Philly versus the Patriots. Book it. Boom. And then, again, going back to how the Constitution was created in Philly. Philly finally wins the Super Bowl. There's a lot more to it, but now it's 239 days after Travis Kelce's birthday, the 52nd prime. And remind me, was it the first Super Bowl between two black quarterbacks on Lincoln's birthday when the Eagles play in Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love? And wasn't it Travis Kelce versus brother, the lineman for the Eagles, Jason Kelce, who won that Super Bowl 52? So now, you see what I mean? Now he's at the White House 239 days after his birthday. Again, White House equals 52, President 52, government 52, authority 52. All roads lead to Rome. Pope equals 52. They sync this stuff up with the Pope every year. Travis Kelce's birthday is 10/5. That's the day leaving 87 days left in the year, like tight end equals 87, like so many tight ends wear 87. But his birthday is 10/5, and Mahomes' birthday is September 17th, the day leaving 105 days left in the year. And if last year was the 104th NFL season and Taylor Allison Swift equals 104, next year must be the 105th NFL season. Isn't that weird? Okay. Mahomes, not to be outdone, today is 257 days after his birthday. That is the 55th prime number. Super Bowl 59 will be the 55th Super Bowl of the modern era. Minneapolis does equal 55 where the Vikings play. The Chiefs and Vikings don't play each other next year, and the Vikings schedule looks brutal. So unless they're the most shocking story ever, it doesn't look like it's the Vikings year next year. But I'm just going to pay attention to where they're going with all this. Does a certain Viking come over and join the Chiefs later this offseason? I know they have some pretty good receivers that aren't too happy in Minnesota. But yeah, I think that there's going to be more Minnesota signs just like last year. Because again, it goes back to the first ever Super Bowl that Mahomes ever won. And here's the other piece. Where did the Lakers begin? The Los Angeles Lakers. Remember, Kobe died, the last athlete to three-peat. Now Mahomes says he's going to three-peat. Remember, they put up the Kobe statue 3 days before Mahomes won his third Super Bowl. Los Angeles Lakers does equal 257, but again, they have the Minnesota connection. Chiefs have the history with Minnesota, so that's why I think there's a bigger piece here. Might be missing something, but continue to watch the stories and the headlines, and we'll see how it comes together. Because every year it's a clue. Last year I was telling you it's 104 days before Mahomes' birthday, upcoming season, 104th. Remember the ad they ran all year? First of all, State Farm, you guys. Mahomes, who does the State Farm ads, he won the 103rd season in State Farm Arena in Arizona. That was the one on Lincoln's birthday, who freed the slaves, the first Super Bowl between two black quarterbacks. But last year, all year, you know it's true. Last year, all year, State Farm ran the bundle ad all NFL season. Bundle 58, like the Super Bowl number. Like, again, Andy Reid stayed on 58 losses with the Chiefs. His last loss, by the way, was in the Super Bowl stadium. Remember, the Chiefs got upset by the Raiders in the Super Bowl 58 stadium. Then he won Super Bowl 58. But bundle also 104 to go with the 104th NFL season. And that reminds me, too, Swift has that 58, and Taylor Allison Swift has that 104, just like Roman Catholic Church. And Yeah, I got to wrap this up. Sweet lady's waiting for me. I'm going over time here. But yeah, you guys, again, I don't know what it's going to take for the or actually here, let me tell you one more thing. You see how back to back the phrase equals 201? Back to back 201. And you see how it's also 24, like Missouri's the 24th state and they got their 24th playoff win, winning the Super Bowl in 24. Back to back 24, like 2024, 201. Remember, from today to the Pope's birthday is a span of 201 days, and today is 201 days after the Superior General's age. And Lida, who's writing the scripts, as we show time and time again. They're meeting with Joe Biden, who sacrificed his whole family in 201 rituals. So, yeah, we'll continue to see where the storyline is. When our predictions aren't dead on, they're usually not far off the mark. And I'm thinking that I'm going to be wrong about Joe Biden leaving office June 1st, 2024. The initial prediction from right when he took office, after we landed that one, because we were like the only people in the world pointing out online why the election was going to be rigged for Biden. Nobody was saying that except for us, because nobody pays attention to what matters. They weren't looking at what Jesuit Georgetown simulated. Everyone's looking at all these mirages and distractions, and it's the what family? What family? You know, the one where they're offing the bankers by the numbers synced up with the Pope. The Rothschilds. Sorry, they don't run the world. Not even close. When they 86, well, actually he got 87 while the Pope was 87. Nathan Rothschild. That's not the first time that's happened to that family. These are the names everyone's stuck on. Bill Gates is somebody's puppet. Donald Trump is somebody's puppet. So is Joe Biden. And they're the puppet of this Jesuit Catholic cabal. And no, this isn't hate for all people that are Jesuit educated or all Catholics. Most of these people don't have anything to do with anything. We're talking about the power structure. The power structure behind these things, the same ones that gave us the calendar and language and run this nation and move the capital to the Jesuit stronghold, D.C., and moved Inauguration Day to the 201st day of the nation's age. No, don't forget that Tom Brady guy, born 201 years after America in 1977 and 201 years after the Illuminati, who was in the arranged marriage with Giselle, born on the 201st day of the year, and then got out of the arranged marriage after he threw for 201 passing yards in the Super Bowl. That was the old Satan Bowl. And by the way, maybe there's something to think about with that too, because that was Super Bowl 55. And again, it is 257 today. 257 days after Mahomes' birthday, the 55th prime. So I'm going to die if they bring Tom Brady back. Oh, my God. He's about to turn 47, Tom Brady. He's 46 right now. He'll turn 47 on August 3rd. Oh, my God. I would die. I'd be, every time he's on the field, I'd just like be, come on, man. Tom at 47. This is crazy. I wouldn't put it past him. The more I think about it, I wouldn't put it past him. All right. GMSM Dreezy. Hey, man, get us on the Patreon. We do the sports intel on the Patreon these days. I do appreciate the super chaps, though. Go on Fresh and Fit, please. I would love to go on Fresh and Fit. Yeah, that'd be, in my opinion, that'd be the best show they ever. That one guy is such a cocky asshole. It'd be interesting what it would look like with me and him in the room at the same time. Yeah, Fresh and Fit. They should have me on instead of having on all these. That stuff just started showing up in my feed. The only reason I even know who they are is it just started showing up in my feed. I was like, I don't watch videos like this. These guys talking to all these stripper girls and porn stars and then getting millions of views. I'm like, see, this is what everyone wants to watch. They want to hear what some young porn star stripper has to say to these guys who are going to talk like they're pieces of shit. I just think the whole thing's ugly to watch. From what I've seen of the Fresh and Fit, I don't like any of the stuff they're doing, but I'd like to go on a show like that for the exposure and see how they react. No, the one guy on that show is so mean to women. And yeah, they might bring on like not the best girls, but to talk to women like that, it's just, see, and that's kind of what makes me annoyed too. Cause I'm like, see, you can be monetized and make a ton of money off like beating down these porno stripper chicks and just treating them like dog shit. And that's okay. That's monetizable. But hey, question mainstream narratives, you'll have your channel shut down more times than you can count. It's like, what's that about? So, yeah. Hey, if you can get me on Fresh and Fit, if you have some kind of connection, let me know. I'll go on any place where I can talk about this and get exposure. That's the one thing we can't get anymore with the algorithm. They got us so clamped. We haven't gotten any views since Kobe died. That's the work got too exact after Kobe's death. Kobe's death brought it all together for me. Kobe's death was a big 201 ritual too. Let's not forget it. And then they bury him in Corona del Mars. They're kicking off coronavirus after the event 201 simulation. Shout out to Carl Streiner again. Thank you very much, Carl. Always appreciate your generosity. Almighty GI says tomorrow is 67 days from Biden's State of the Union on the 86th day of the year. That's right. He gave the State of the Union on the 80s. You just never know. You just never know with all the coincidence theory. I mean, it could happen tomorrow. What's going to piss me off is if it happens tomorrow, watch, we're still not going to be getting any views or recognition anymore because, like, the algorithm just killed us. But yeah, this happening today is a sign of all the things we've been talking about. Open Up says, I've sent your book to Fresh and Fit P.O. Box. I've also told them multiple times to interview. Oh, so you're watching Fresh and Fit too. Okay. I appreciate you doing that. I know my books have been sent to a lot of people's P.O. boxes, and about the only person who ever responded was the Higher Side Chats. So shout out to the Higher Side Chats. All right, guys, I do got to get off. I'm keeping Sweet Lady hanging, and that ain't cool. So have a good rest of your night, everyone. Thank you, everyone who hits the like and the share. And until next time, Truth Seeker.